Okay. So, first I'm going to tell you all the questions so you know, like, what their questions are going to be.
So I can make up answers before.
Yeah, so so you know.
Yeah.
So number 1 is, what was it like living on the island? Number 2 is, what was your favorite thing to do there? Number 3 is, where is your favorite place/view on the island? 4, tell me the story of when you moved there. 5, do you know the history of Treasure Island? 6, what were some annoying things about living on an island? 7, how long did you live on Treasure Island? 8, who made you move and why? 9, how did it feel to have to move? 10, is there anything you'd like to add? So yeah.
So go ahead and ask them the first.
Okay. So the first question is, what was it like living on the island?
So, let's see. It was, I think in a lot of ways it was magic, right? Like, we had great views, and it was super quiet, very safe. I never had any crime in my neighborhood at all. We had the same neighbors for more than, 10 years. And it was a small community. And we had kind of we were a community. Like your class becomes a community, kind of, right?
Yeah.
Second question.
Okay. Number 2, what was your favorite thing to do there?
Walking my dogs down to the beach on the east side of the island. There's a beach. It's like a cove, and it looks almost like a tropical island. There's really a lot of trees, and there's a stairway that went right down to the beach, and it's a sandy beach. And you could look across the bay, and you could see the East Bay Bridge, and or the eastern span of the Bay Bridge, and Oakland. It's really pretty. So I really like walking my dogs down.
Okay. So 3, where is your favorite place/view on the island?
Favorite place? I think, well, it's definitely that beach would be number 1, but I already talked about that. So I would say number 2, there was a spot where you could stand above the western span of the Bay Bridge. So it was basically where the tunnel is, the opening in the tunnel, and stand above that and look back at San Francisco and see the length of the bridge. And on the right side is the city, and on the left side is the ballpark. And then off in the distance is Twin Peaks. And so we could see, see the cars coming out of the tunnel, almost like they were, magic just appeared, and then they would go across, and you could hear them go as they went over the lines across the way in the freeway. So, and then you look down at the water, and you could watch the cargo ships coming back and forth underneath the Bay Bridge. They're huge. They look almost like like a building floating along the bay in front of downtown. And so you could watch them go under the bridge and then go over to the Oakland port. You can see them pretty much come in from underneath the Golden Gate Bridge, and then go underneath the Bay Bridge, and then go to the port. So I like that spot, So you see the cars moving, the boats moving, all the activity, and see the whole city. It's kind of like Argos.
Next question.
Okay. So 4, tell me the story of when you moved there.
So story. Wow. So before I moved there, I was at business school. So I was getting my graduate degree, and right before graduation, I got hit by a car, and it was a bad accident. I was injured pretty badly, and I had already planned on taking a job in San Francisco. And as you know, your dad lived there on Treasure Island before me. He moved there, right when it was open to the public, because previously it was a naval base, right? And so he was one of the first civilian residents there. And so when I was graduating, I wasn't in shape to go around looking for apartments. I had broken my neck and broken a leg and torn a bunch of ligaments in my other leg. So I was still recovering, right? So I stayed with your dad, and I really liked it there. And then a neighbor had a roommate who moved out, and I moved in. And then she moved out, and it was my apartment.
All right,
Okay.
next question.
5. Do you know the history of Treasure Island?
I do.
Can you tell?
Oh, okay. So, Treasure Island is the man-made portion of what are really two islands, and most people call it just Treasure Island. The island that is the natural island is the one that the Bay Bridge goes through. So that one's always been there. It was there when the first Europeans got here, and it was just that island out in the middle. But that was, people call that Yerba Buena. But Yerba Buena, San Francisco, before it was named San Francisco, was Yerba Buena. So that was the original name of San Francisco too. But now it's just the island. That island is Yerba Buena Island. And Treasure Island is the part that was built on, from when they dredged the bay so they could get deeper hulled ships through underneath the Golden Gate into the Port of Oakland. They had to deepen the bay. So that means they had to take a bunch of dirt and sand and stuff out of the bottom of the bay and basically built the island with what was left over, or what they dug up. That, and they used rubble from the 1908. I don't want to get a bad grade in history, but the great earthquake, the San Francisco earthquake. A lot of the rubble is kind of what they dumped first to build up the foundation, which is now Treasure Island. So that after that was built, it was used for the World Expo. So a lot of technologies and stuff that were going on at the time. This was like in the 30s, 1930, like the late 30s. So the next, it stayed after that kind of like a place where people went to see jazz shows or, entertainment things, like Ethel Merman, who was like a famous swimmer. She did diving and coordinating swimming. It's like nobody talks about her now. You go back and Google her. It's pretty funny what people found entertaining back in the day. But anyway, so they went to see those shows and things, and that was Treasure Island. They had casinos and kind of adult things out there, and then World War II happened, and the Navy took it over. And it's interesting because originally, before they used it for the World Expo, Treasure Island was going to be the San Francisco airport, because when planes first started being used, people expected that everyone was going to use seaplanes. And that's where, all the planes would land. So, that didn't work out. So we're obviously not landing on the water. But so anyway, in 45, or it would have been like earlier than that, like 42-3, I think, the Navy took it over and made it a naval base. And it stayed a naval base until your brother moved there.
Okay, next question.
Okay. 6. What were some annoying things about living on an island?
On an island. So you're really exposed to the wind. If it was cold, there's it's really wind swept. The wind will blow through there pretty fast. Then, if I wanted to go anywhere, I had to drive over the Bay Bridge. And depending on what time of the day, that could be a nightmare, right?
Yeah.
And then there are even times when there would be accidents at night and it would be crowded because it's the only way to get across. So that's more of a function of, that island in particular is the ability to get on and off. You need to, but when you have to, you just can never gauge how long it's going to take you to get anywhere or get home, right?
Okay, next question.
All right. 7. How long did you live on Treasure Island?
15 years.
That's okay. That's really long. And then 8.
Your brother was born there.
Okay. 8. Who made you move and why?
Well, the who made me move was it was the property management company. Ultimately, they sent the letter, but it was the city and the developers who asked them to send that letter, because the developers wanted to come in and build, like fancy condos and stuff, and they had been trying to get that done for 15 years. So we were always, as a community, kind of wondering what they were going to do to us and or do with us, and we were expecting that we were going to be kept whole and kept together. But they didn't make any effort whatsoever to preserve that community. They just were going to pretty much scatter us. So that's not what you asked, but that's who. They wanted to move. They wanted to move us so they could redevelop the island and basically sell those properties for a lot of money.
Next question.
Okay. 8. How did it feel to have to move, like, away from the island?
Yeah, we'd been told when we moved on that we would be able to buy our houses, when they were ready to redevelop. And when I moved on, it was supposed to be 4 or 5 years, when they started, but it ended up being 15. So, that was frustrating. It was, waiting to see if they were going to be able to live there permanently. And then when they did finally say they were going to redevelop, they weren't going to let us move back, or not help us move back. We were, they said, oh, you're more than welcome to buy, one of the homes at market price, right? But that wasn't really what they had told us when we became a community over those 15 years.
Okay.
So 10. Is there anything you would like to add?
I think that I had never had to, or never been in a position where I had to, fight to protect my neighborhood or something that meant a lot to me from what I guess a lot of people would call progress. Progress can oftentimes run people over, if they're in the way of it. Mm-hmm. And as a society, sometimes we say, well, we have to get that, things like this done somehow or another. But when it's occurring to you, right, you're the one that's really if there's anyone making sacrifices, it's you. A lot of people will benefit. Why is it that just this handful of people should bear the brunt? And so for me, what I add is that the experience of standing up for your community and stuff that's important to you is, I think that it's frustrating in some ways, it's empowering in some ways, but we all have to do it. You can't let people just push you around or watch other people get pushed around by people who are looking to make a profit, right? Who are rich and want to get richer.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to keep that perspective, and that's, I guess, that's definitely add that it's worth it to do that, especially when there are people who need it. Because a lot of my neighbors, it was difficult for them.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Is that it?
Yeah.
I love you, Emily.
Love you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Squirt. Say goodbye.
Bye.